Hello everyone out there, I'm Kate Hill and welcome to the Adviseable Property News Update. Now you know we give you the best, balanced, honest commentary and content on our channel. So before we do anything else, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification bell so that you don't miss all of our posts about owning, investing and buying property. And if you're enjoying our free content and you are finding it useful, please click on the all important like button too. I do really appreciate your support. The reason that's important is the more people that click that like button, the more YouTube will recommend our videos to other people. So we do appreciate that support very, very much. And to all of you who are watching, welcome. I'm so happy that you found us and please do keep watching. To really quickly explain who the heck I am and what qualifies me to be sitting here talking to you about property buying, owning and investing. I've been in real estate for a really, really long time, advising and helping people. I've seen most things happen. I've gone through cycles, the ups and the downs. And we as a team also invest and own in property. We attend auctions, we appraise, analyse and buy property. We are out there every day at that property coalface. We're also qualified property investment advisors. We don't get paid by anyone to sell property, which means there's a vested interest there. I do genuinely care about empowering all of you to get the best outcomes for yourselves, and we are experts at what we do. So join me for the next few minutes while I cover off on the auction clearance rates, Australians who've been squirreling away money during the pandemic, the impact of the US election on house prices, and the pandemic spurs housing demand in regional property markets. Now you can also watch one of my videos here. I've listed it in that description below, where you can get a more in-depth discussion and the latest from the Brisbane property market, where prices are predicted to surge 20%. To get straight into those auction clearance rates, there were 1,758 homes taken to auction across the combined capital cities, which was slightly higher than the previous week when it was 1,747. Of the 1,420 results collected so far, 73% were successful. Now compare this with 1 year ago when it was 2,412 homes that were taken to auction and 70% of reported auctions were successful. Across Melbourne, there were 606 auctions, exactly the same number as last week. And this time last year, it was 1,032 homes that were taken to auction. Of the 507 results collected so far, 71.8% were successful. In Sydney, 853 homes were taken to auction this week, almost the same as the 854 from the previous week, and 948 this time last year. So Sydney's not far off where we were last year in terms of auction numbers. Melbourne has some catching up to do. We will review where house prices are at the end of November, early December, when we get those latest figures. Now, for those of you fearing the postponed economic cliff in March, we were going to have it in September, it never happened. You might like to know that Australians have amassed $115 billion in total savings as a buffer against the pandemic recession, which can be seen as a sign that economic recovery is unlikely to be derailed by any future reduction in government income support. Figures from the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority, APRA, show that household deposits surged to $1.09 trillion by the end of September, which is an increase of $115 billion in 12 months, and $99.5 billion increase on deposit levels in February before the pandemic took hold. So we've all been saving money like crazy, stashing it away for any future rainy days. The NAB's Director of Market Economics says that just as the tens of billions of dollars in emergency support helped soften the virus recession, the savings amassed recently will help households navigate any drop-off in income payments over the coming months. There is mounting optimism that the economy is recovering after a 7% contraction in the June quarter. Remember that the RBA Deputy Governor said last week that he expected the economy to have grown in the September quarter, which technically would end the pandemic recession. Surveys show that outside Victoria, consumer confidence has staged a dramatic recovery to sit at pre-pandemic levels. So let's keep monitoring this. There are still a lot of people in that watch and wait mode. I can't let this newscast go by without mentioning and addressing the US election outcome. Now, you may have watched my US election special report, and if you haven't, go and watch it. But Joe Biden's win is set to have a significant effect on our property markets. All of Donald Trump's coming shenanigans aside, the fact is that the certainty that America and the globe now have about the next president in the White House is set to create a flow-on effect to Australia and other countries who often do take their lead from one of the world's leading economies. The fact that Joe Biden has already started work on putting his Fight the Pandemic team together, he's not just ignoring it, has reassured many millions around the world, because while it might mean some economic pain in the shorter term, it does mean that he is dealing with the issue, meaning that travel and trade could return to a healthier levels sooner than had he not won the election and the virus was just left to run rampant and kill many more hundreds of thousands of Americans. So there's no doubt that Biden's win will have a stabilizing effect on today's economic outlook, which in turn will encourage confidence among potential property buyers. Stock markets in both Australia and the rest of the globe are already reflecting the same sentiment. So that, along with some positive news about successful COVID vaccine trials, have spurred confidence and driven share markets up. Certainty and stability are two factors that affect consumer confidence and, as a result, the Australian property market. We continue to monitor whether the pandemic has spurred housing demand in regional markets in Australia. Some data does suggest that this is happening. Rental value increases are positively correlated with greater distance from the CBD for the largest capital cities. The latest CoreLogic data shows growth across regional housing markets is higher than the capital cities in both quarterly and annual terms. Values across the combined regional market increased 4.8% over the year, compared with 3.7% across the capital cities. The rate of annual change in combined regional dwellings has not outpaced the capitals since October 2019, when the largest capitals were moving through the end of a downturn. However, throughout the COVID period, March to October 2020, so far, values across the combined regional areas increased 1.7%, while the combined capital cities fell 2.3%. But keep in mind that this does throw every regional market into one bucket and every capital city market into one bucket. And we have reported many times over the past few months that they have all behaved quite differently. They generally behave quite differently, but it is interesting nevertheless. In each state, inner city markets are still showing relatively weak performances. And this, again, as we've said before, is because the inner cities have historically seen greater housing demand from renters, particularly those from overseas, working in industries that have been acutely affected by the pandemic, and the student market. But it is worth noting that combined regional Australia has previously outperformed capital city markets based on cyclical patterns. Capital city markets generally have higher volatility, meaning that the returns are higher during upswings and declines are deeper during downswings. In comparison with this, regional markets have shown much greater stability, fewer highs, but also fewer lows. They are generally much more consistent and steady markets. But don't take this as a sign that you should just rush off and buy any old property in any old regional town. As always, you do need to do your research carefully to check that all the right property fundamentals are there. Please don't forget to just subscribe to our channel, leave a comment below, and hit that like button too. I do really appreciate that support, and I will see you again really soon. Bye.